This is anatomy and physiology lesson 8. So this is following on from the cardiovascular system, the heart and blood vessels. Today we're looking at red blood cells, so what makes up the different components of blood, which is red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasma. As always, the booklet I'll complete on the left hand side of the screen, and you've just got the slides that I would use in the lesson on the right hand side. So starting off with the do now activity. With the picture that's there, identify the cells that are shown in the picture. Can you then describe what role they play, what's their job with our cardiovascular system, and then why they're important for sport, physical activity. If you're stuck on that, go back to the last lesson and just double check that you completed that exam question fully. If you are having a go at this, you can pause this now or complete it, and then I'll go through the answers in a minute. Okay, been really simple with this. As in the picture, they're showing red blood cells, obviously under a microscope. The job of red blood cells is to transport oxygen. The importance for sport and physical activities, for aerobic respiration. We obviously need that for energy, so that's going to be kind of what we're going to look at in today's lesson. So the thing today is what are the different components of blood and why are they important for sport and exercise. So we need to know what the 4 different components of blood and then what the function of each of those are. So completing the pages in your booklet, I've put the 4 on one sheet like that. I'm just going to go through the 4, sorry, there's a couple on this side and there's a couple on the next. So the first one, just starting up here, plasma. Plasma is a straw coloured liquid which is made of 90% water. It contains sodium chloride or salt, glucose, antibodies, urea and other waste products. It also contains plasma proteins, and these are important for circulation. That's the main function of plasma, is circulation between the cells. And without that circulation, we wouldn't be able to transport oxygen. So plasma is kind of the thing that's important for us to be able to move all of the other cells around the body. So plasma we need for circulation. There's a little picture of that on the side there, which is on the screen. Next, red blood cells just on the other side. They're sometimes called erythrocytes. Make sure I spell that right. They're disc shaped. They're made in the bone marrow, so linked to the skeletal system. They contain a red coloured compound called hemoglobin, which bonds with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. And that's important for us to transport oxygen. So you can see the picture on there, they're kind of like a disc shape. There's a space for the oxygen molecules to sort of sit in there, and they transport oxygen around the body. Red blood cells are going to be one of the most important ones we're going to need to be familiar with. Obviously with this being a sports course, there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of questions about this. So linking to sport performance, we're now just going to fill out the 2 areas at the bottom. If you've got a low cell count of red blood cells, that can sometimes be referred to as being anemic or anemia. The effects of that will be breathlessness or low energy. It can be caused by losing a large amount of blood. Obviously, if you have less blood, you've got less red blood cells, you've got less oxygen being carried around the body. It could be a lack of iron. When we look at diet in component 2, iron's important to help transport oxygen. To improve that, you may need to take supplements if you have a low red blood cell count, or increase the number of iron-rich foods such as liver and spinach. If you've got a high cell count of red blood cells, 1 cubic millimetre of blood contains about 5 million red blood cells on average. People who live in areas of high altitude, so if you live in areas by like mountain regions where you're high up above sea level, if you live there, so you're around that most of the time, you have a higher cell count of red blood cells because there is less oxygen in the air. So their blood has to be super efficient at picking it up. This is an adaptation of exercise. This is because your body has adapted to living in an area of low oxygen in the air. So if you live at high altitudes, that adaptation has caused you to increase the amount of red blood cells so that you can be more efficient with picking up oxygen. How this benefits sports performers is if you are from that sort of area and you've grown up through that, you may be naturally quite good at long distance events. Such as marathons or cycling, but you may find that athletes will go and train at altitude so they can help with improve the effectiveness of their training. So if an athlete for a marathon or cycling event was to go and train at an area of high altitude, their body would respond to the lack of oxygen in the air by making more red blood cells, making them super efficient at picking up oxygen, so that when they return to wherever it is that they're competing, their cardiovascular system has improved. So turning the page to white blood cells at the top. White blood cells are sometimes referred to as leukocytes. These are bigger than red blood cells, and they have a large nuclei, which is the thing that sort of stores all the information, and this is our body's defense system. And they destroy pathogens, they keep us healthy, they stop us from getting ill, they consume harmful microbes. So your white blood cells are your first line of defense, and they can produce antibodies which can fight off infection. So your white blood cells are for defense, maintain your health, and there's a little picture of kind of what they look like there. So sports performers, where this is going to be important, is anywhere where you're going to have a break in the skin, stop infections from coming in. Your white blood cells are going to help fight any infection. Any questions with that, where you get like why they're important? If you can fight off infections and maintain good health, it can then allow you to continue training or performing. So you're not going to have to stop training through being ill. And then your last one, platelets, which is on the other side. These are found in the bone marrow, and these produce thrombokinase, which is needed for blood clotting. So platelets, their main function is blood clot. So when we are trying to repair an open wound, the platelets will rush to the site of the injury, and they will swell, and they will become irregular shapes, and they will become sticky. So if you've ever fell over and you get that sort of gooey white covering over the cut, these are the platelets which are starting to form a scab. And then there'll be a signal sent to the brain to release serotonin to help make you feel a little bit better. So with each one, then obviously the question about why is it important for sports performance, is it can prevent too much blood loss. It can help stop infection getting into the body. Okay. Moving on to your task, you've got some keywords just to match up. So some of these I've gone through and just joined them up. If it's a little bit messy with all of the lines, which I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, I'm just going to number the keywords 1 to 9, and I'm just going to write the corresponding number next to the correct definition. So again, pause that now if you'd like to go through it, or you can join the lines up as I go through. So obviously your first one, erythrocyte, is a red blood cell, so that's number 1. Hemoglobin is a protein that transports oxygen. Anemia is a condition where there is a lack of red blood cells. Leukocyte is a white blood cell. A pathogen is an agent that causes disease, such as a virus. An antibody is a chemical which helps destroy a pathogen. Thrombokinase is the substance involved in blood clotting. Serotonin is the hormone which triggers blood clotting. And then lastly, your plasma is the fluid part of the blood. So again, you can join the lines up, you could maybe highlight the different colours as well. We can just do the numbers. So moving on to your task, so we're finishing off with just a task and an exam question. The task, you've got 3 different scenarios. You can obviously choose one to complete, or you can complete all of them. Your job is to, for the first one, during training, you cut your leg, which has left a small cut and some bleeding. Explain how the blood will combat the clot. Task 2, one of your players has sustained a cut during training, which they didn't get treated. How will the blood fight off the infection? And then lastly, you have an upcoming tournament and want to improve fitness levels of your players. Explain how training at high altitudes will improve fitness levels of the team. So again, you can pause that at this point, and then I'll go through it in a couple of minutes. So your first task, explain how the blood clots. The key word there is platelets. So platelets will rush to the site of the injury and swell to plug the wound. This will form a scab and prevent further bleeding. And then how do we fight off infection? We've identified white blood cells are the component of blood which will do that. They will consume harmful microbes and release antibodies to fight off the infection. So for your last one, how does train at high altitude help improve fitness? So obviously there's less oxygen in the air, so to adapt to that, the body will develop more red blood cells, and this will improve the efficiency of oxygen delivery to the muscles. We could even expand there that allows better energy supply during exercise. On return from the training at altitude, the athletes will have an improved cardiovascular fitness. And then just some example responses on the slide there, just for you to add anything that's missing. And then lastly, exam question from a previous paper. So you've got a picture of a boxer who's had a cut to the face, and your question is to explain why platelets are important to athletes in contact sports such as boxing. And then for 1 mark, explain or state that one function of plasma. So again, you can pause at this point if you want to have a go yourself. I'm going to go through it now, so and then I'll go through it in a second. Okay, so just going through those answers. Why platelets are important for contact sports such as boxing. They produce thrombokinase, which is needed for blood clotting. The answers are coming up on the screen as well. We can go into detail about what that is, but for 2 marks that's probably going to be enough, and then an example of when that could happen. So this will help prevent blood loss if they get cut from being punched. For B, a function of plasma, anything around circulation between cells, and then that helps us transport oxygen. Again, one of those 2 will probably be okay.